at points where I have like walked away from toxic situations and I went like, I'm good now. I'm never going to play out that karmic pattern again. I'm totally healed. Only to wake up 6 months or 2 years later and catch myself playing a different version of the same exact thing. So just putting down the pipe or the drink or the pills or the ex-boyfriend or ex-husband, wife, toxic job, whatever it is, doesn't mean we're healed. When we're ready to go in and heal ancestral trauma, we are fully aware that we've been dealing with something that's long running, that like just getting away or running away from the problems doesn't help. And why? Because it exists inside of us, right? As much as we want to blame the world around us and like, I'm cursed and my life is just shit and bad things just happen to me, that is not the deeper truth. The trauma is inside of us. So the point at which we're ready to actually go deeper and do this healing is the point when we've at least had some distance from actively engaging with the things that completely pull us into unconsciousness, completely pull us into abuse and all of the trauma responses, because we need distance so we can see ourselves objectively. Okay, that was like a long intro to answering the question, how freaking long does it take? Answer the question already. I think when you get to the point where you're ready to surrender and do this deeper work and face your pain and do the purging and feel the feelings and unravel and recode your consciousness and reparent your inner children and do all of this whole transformative work, you can do it more or less in 2 to 5 years. Yes, my friends, it takes some time. We are talking about ancestral trauma, okay? So it's not going to happen over the weekend. It's not going to happen in a few months. You are going to need several seasons of your life to just identify these deeper parts of yourself that have false beliefs, that are operating on these false foundations of trauma and negativity and shame and fear and anger and all of the things, right? So several seasons just to identify the deeper beliefs and karmic patterns. Then you're going to need several more seasons to work with them, right? You're conscious of them at that point, but you're still falling back into them, right? You're still struggling with them. You're still not fully, completely, 100% awake and aware of all the things that you are feeling and believing and thinking and acting in life. And then I think you need a few more seasons for the vibrational echo to fade away. Okay, so several seasons to identify these deeper karmic patterns and deeper parts of yourself, then several more seasons to be really working with the patterns and catching them when they come up and rewiring your consciousness. And then like there's like some lag time at the end where it still comes back, right? Because there's a lot of momentum there, right? We are talking about ancestral trauma, so there's going to be momentum there. And this is when you get like your final karmic test. This stuff's going to come back up and come back up until you have completely emptied your cup, completely rewired your consciousness, and you stand in sovereignty and you stand in neutrality. So when something comes back up, you don't react to it. You know, somebody comes up and tries to manipulate you or shame you, or a big bill comes in the mail, you don't react. You're not like losing your identity, falling back into poverty consciousness, or reacting to the attempted manipulation. You just kind of laugh it off, you know, like it's not a thing anymore. You are strong and sovereign in your consciousness. And then those patterns, that momentum just fades away because there's nothing feeding into it anymore. You are not feeding these old lower timelines, these lower energies of lack, scarcity, and unworthiness. Okay, so I would say that if you're really devoted and you're really committed to just going within and making your healing journey the first priority, not your job, not making money, not even your relationships, okay? Like your healing is going to take over everything. if you really want to get through this, if you really want to once and for all move forward, and not just be constantly pulled back into these patterns, yeah, it's going to have to be your first priority. And if you do that, I think a couple of years is possible. For me, it took a good 5 years, okay? It took 2 years to really identify these deeper patterns and do the purging. The purging is a huge part of it. And then it was like another 2 years of recoding, and the patterns would come back up and I'd be like, damn it, I fell back into it again, like I slipped up again for the last 9 months or 6 months. I didn't even see it. I was acting out that scarcity program, or I was totally driven by this subconscious part of myself and I didn't catch it, but I was getting closer. And then like the last year was just the vibrational echo, like the things coming back, the final karmic tests, and me just going, yeah, like, no thanks, bro. Keep walking. Like, I'm not responding to that. That is not true. I'm not falling into any ideas of unworthiness or shame about myself, or that I can't effectively move forward in my life. I know it's all a lie. I know it's all an illusion. And then it fades away. I do want to put a big caveat in here, and it's a good one. It is that we are in a time of awakening on this planet. We are in a time of increasing high frequency light streaming down onto the planet, activating you, right? And this is why I'm talking to people on the path of spiritual awakening, because you already know what I'm talking about. You've been getting energetic activations, your DNA is getting switched on. And the whole reason that I'm saying this is because we're in an accelerated time of growth, right? So healing, what took 50 years before can take 5 years now. What took 5 years before can take 1 year now, because we are ramping up in frequency on this planet. So it doesn't have to take any particular amount of time. To be honest with you, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 6 months. But, whether it takes 2 years or 5 years, or you like blow through it because you have this massive deep conscious awakening and you do it in 18 months, who knows, right? Like, I think we need to work through the seasons of our lives, recoding the consciousness. It does take some time. Some people jump timelines quicker than others, but the proof is in the pudding. You want to look at your results over time. Let me give you an example. I thought that I had cleared my anger out in the first 2 years because I did a lot of sacred work with that. And I'll talk about that in the future. And then like a year after that, this whole deeper wave of anger came up, okay? And this is the kind of thing that can happen with ancestral healing, because it is heavily layered and deeply embedded into our DNA. So just because we get the first layer of the onion doesn't mean we're at the core. So how long is it going to take? Honestly, who cares, as long as you're on the path, right? Because every step you take on the path of healing, you're getting stronger. You're developing more self-worth, more self-awareness, and it's getting better. Yes, there are some scary moments, but overall, it's an upwards trajectory. The last thing I want to leave you with is this concept that people go to university and they spend 4 years studying a particular subject. Just think about that. When you go to get a degree, you commit your life. Maybe you take out a loan, you don't work at all, you totally rearrange your life so that you can study hard, you stay up all night, you have a bunch of exams, and you pummel through so you can get that degree. It's kind of the same thing with ancestral healing, except instead of mastering a subject, you're mastering you. You are the degree. You are the prize at the end of the period of study. So take that idea and that amount of time and that amount of commitment and dedication. You can do that with your own healing, and that's really what it takes. The ego has to surrender, be put in the back seat so that you can go deeper and do this healing work. Okay. I'm going to leave it there before I talk my head off. I want to thank you for listening to this transmission. Thank you for your presence, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.